Welcome to Startup Wins. Twice a month, we share real stories and smart tips. Subscribe and join the journey.
We are back on another episode of Startup Wins, and I am blessed to have my friend Shaun. We met on the Founders Network. God, I don't know what year it was. I think 2023, 2022. Do you even remember? No, 2020. I think it was like 5 years ago, right?
It was a pandemic meeting, as they all were.
Yes, they were all pandemic meetings. So we met on the format that we're sitting here recording on, Zoom. But obviously Zoom's gotten a little bit better. And so hopefully you all get to enjoy the real Shaun Gold. So Shaun, introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Well, of course. Well, thank you for having me. That's always what I want to start with. But yeah, I'm Shaun Gold. I put the fun in fund. I'm a ghostwriter, I'm a top 1% ghostwriter, the startup founders and VCs and funds of funds. I'm the chief evangelist for OpenVC. And I like to put the adventure in venture. I'm a partner in Improve Ventures. We're focused right now on secondaries and late stage companies and VC portfolio strip sales. I speak, I write, I do it all, and I try to put a smile on it when it comes to startups and venture capital.
Jesus Christ, that was like the 1-minute elevator pitch for both comedy clubs and when you go into a VC.
And the elevator was only going to the second floor, or as many founders call it the penthouse lifestyle. You know, here at the penthouse, working on a startup, relax, Chad, you're on the second floor. It's a walk up, okay? It's 2 flights of stairs. Stop posting like you're doing something.
Hey, that should be the first week of Accelerator. Walk up the stairs, because most of the founders out there probably can't even get halfway up, right? So
very true. And make sure the building doesn't have an elevator. Don't put your startup office there. Do it where all the founders do it, at your local WeWork next to the homeless guy in the corner.
Well, you can hire him as your CTO or co-founder.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's always a fun game when you go into a WeWork, because you don't know if the person is a hipster, a hacker, or homeless, or all of the above.
You know? You're right. You're right. If you see someone drop his WeWork card, he can just slip right in and just kind of comb his hair back a little bit and then say, "Hey, I'm a founder."
Exactly. And he probably is more talented than the actual founder. So,
well, his bank account's going to be larger than most founders. So, that's the one thing.
Very true.
Well, in all seriousness, Shaun, you've been building businesses, you've been helping build businesses. You actually are part of kind of a venture. What was it called? Could you tell us a little bit more?
What am I doing today? Multiple things, right? I mean, I want to caveat this by saying I never had a real job. So if you're looking for career advice from someone that worked at McKinsey or spent, 60 hours a week in an office, it's not me. I've never even been to one of those offices. I mean, I showed up once for lunch. Wasn't that good. Didn't want to work there. But yeah, I mean, I do a variety of different things. I mean, with OpenVC, that is a platform for tech founders to find funding. And it's absolutely free. You can use it right now. Well, don't use it right now. You're listening to the podcast. But I created the content program for that platform before becoming the chief evangelist. So if you want to go on there and learn, what a pitch deck is, what a pre-seed round means, fundraising 101, all of that. It's there. It's free. You can learn, and you can get your pitch deck reviewed by our AI. You can have a test the fundability of your startup. It's going to be honest and tell you if it works or if it doesn't. A lot of cool stuff. So I built that out. I'm still working with them as always, more in the face of the brand role. And as part of Improve Ventures, I've helped build that out, which we're essentially a fundless sponsor, if I would call it that. No assets under management, but we do a lot of secondary deals in late stage companies. Series B and above, and no, just because your advisor says it's valued at 30 million, but your pre-seed doesn't mean it is a Series B. Just want to caveat that. Do that as well. A lot of different things. I'm always busy. I'm always knee deep in the ecosystem, the startup swamp, as we call it.
Yeah. Well, and you're based where?
Miami, Silicon Swamp.
Silicon Swamp.
Yep. Remember, it used to be a tech hub. We tried to make it the next big Silicon Valley. It was going to be a tech utopia. And I said, no, it's not. And then, as usual, I was right. And it wasn't. It collapsed after a 6-month vision of paradise and tech companies and venture funds.
So, so it's where startups go to slow down.
It's where startups, I think, go to imagine. It's where they dare to dream. We even had a Miami coin. The Miami coin could make you a millionaire if you invested as a billionaire. It went to zero. I mean, we can't even get the parking meter to work, and we're creating a coin. Yeah, so there was during around the pandemic and a little after, people came here to be my favorite kind of founder, the entrepreneur. When you say, "What do you do?" I'm an entrepreneur. Well, what's your business? It's an app. Well, what does it do? It's not out yet. Okay. That was pretty much every conversation. So yeah, it was a nice little paradise, a little break from reality. But now that we're back in reality, we know the Valley is back. We know New York City is back. We know that everywhere but Miami is doing something with startups.
That should be the new tagline: anywhere but Miami.
Yes, and anywhere and everywhere but here. Because all the time people always want to fly in here and meet for coffee and say, where should I go and what's the scene? And then they get here and they're like, there's no scene. This place sucks. And I was like, yeah, I told you so. But hey, don't listen to me. I've only been here long enough to get paroled.
Well, okay, God, I don't know which direction to go now, but all I
The
can
right
say
direction, the correct one. So go
okay,
ahead, choose.
we'll try to move the right direction. First off, have you built anything that, because when we met on Founders Network, I think you were building an organization, correct?
I was building I was building out more of a passion project, and like most passion projects, it ended in heartbreak. Well, it didn't end in heartbreak. I just got too busy to deal with it, and it wasn't as profitable as it should have been. But yeah, when I met on Founders Network, I was a little young and a little naive, which is why I was on Founders Network, just like everyone else. And once you learn, kind of, if you learn as much as you can and you start having a grasp of the ecosystem, you realize you have more knowledge of how to operate. You have more knowledge of how to move. You have more knowledge of how to maneuver. You have more knowledge of what actually works and what actually is going to move the needle. I mean, and even now, I mean, it's stuff that I learned then that is in practice now. Like vanity metrics don't matter. Like nobody cares about the vanity metrics. I mean, they're cool, but they just aren't going to move the needle to revenue. They're not going to move the needle to like, oh, this is going to be the next big thing. So yeah, I mean, it was a while ago, but I've always been working with something. I've never been idle. I don't like to be idle. So I'm always busy and I'm always, 7 days a week on point, just doing something, but that tends to be in the venture space and the technology space and the startup space, globally, depending on if I understand it and if I think it's cool. A lot of stuff is not cool, and a lot of stuff I don't understand.
Well, let's dive into the notion of founders being too young. Or do you think that founders are not necessarily too young? It just kind of depends on maturity. Because I wonder, and I'm still thinking about this quite a bit as we evaluate companies, is there a certain like minimum age, or does it make more sense on a data front, like, on a data level, that we should not? Because I just published a book, right, about 2 weeks ago, and I then moved to the next iteration of the book, which is examining the founders. And there's a sweet spot on the age, and it's definitely not in the 20s. But it's also ironically not in the 50s or the 40s either, according to some statistics or stuff that you'll see all online. So what do you think? Like, is there an ideal age? Does it matter? I mean, what are your thoughts on, is everyone
I don't think it's
not?
I don't think it's the age. I think it's the core competency and the capacity, right? I mean, yeah, some statistics say that, 40 plus is the best time to be a founder because you have the capital to bootstrap it, you have the connections from your career, you have the relationships from just your life so that you can get the introductions you need. We have this notion that, the 21-year-old, because we have the Steve Jobs and the Bill Gates and the Mark Zuckerberg and all that. But those are like the outliers. They really are. That's why we know them. The vast majority of young founders, unless they come from a really good background, like they're not going to be able to bootstrap because they don't have any money, right? Or they're not going to be able to raise because they don't have any past success. It's like getting a job today. Entry level, no experience required except 5 years of experience, right? So it's I don't think it's age because I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, right? But it's capacity, right? It's a matter of if you're 17 or 18 and you could build something and you're creating something that people are paying for and that you can scale that, then yeah, it doesn't matter like your past experience because you're already proving it. That the problem is that most people they think that, oh, I have an idea, so just give me $1 million because I want AI for sashimi. It doesn't work that way. And I think that's what gets into a lot of people's head, and that's not an age specific thing. That's a general thing because I talk to people all the time that they just don't get it. If they're older, they're gonna say, "Oh, well, why am I gonna do a small raise? I can just take out a line of credit." And then you have younger people that's like, "Well, I'm 16 years old. How am I supposed to raise, 100? We're supposed to get $100,000 from, right?" So it's really just not so much an age thing, but just the mindset and having a sense of reality of how it works and what to expect and whatnot. But it really, I mean, I've been on a bunch of podcasts. I talk to founders, everything from like high school to 60 plus and all that. And I tell them all the same thing, just do something that you really enjoy doing that a stranger that you're never going to meet in a country you can't find on the map is going to pull out a credit card and pay you for. I mean, it's harder than it sounds, but that's what it is. Um,
Oh,
Instead
100%.
of trying to like sacrifice your entire life and change something which maybe in 6 months is going to be obsolete by AI, or it's people aren't going to love it as much as you do, all of that. So it's a bit of a long-winded answer, but I think that age really doesn't matter. The understanding of reality does, and the understanding of the game being played does. And if you do that, you're already ahead of 99% of all the other founders that just don't take the time to learn. I mean, it's not like we're trying to trick anybody. It's like if you just go to ChatGPT or go to Google. I mean, look up how long should a pitch deck be for a pre-seed, startup pitch deck. They're going to tell you like 10 to 15 slides. So that's not like it's anything different. It's not like it's the data varies. It's 10 to 15 slides. Yet people still make 45 slide decks or 50 slide decks or 60 slide decks. Again, they just don't take the time. They don't have the expertise, and the expertise they do get is usually from some influencer that's trying to sell them a course that is giving bad advice, or from AI that is trained on every single thing out there. So that advice is going to vary. And then if they say, "Oh, well, is this good?" The AI is not going to say, "No, it's terrible." It's going to say, "Yeah, this is awesome. I would invest if I wasn't a large language model." And then they'll put that as a testimonial. ChatGPT says they would use it and invest if they were a person. Give me money. So yeah.
Well, I had a question about like, what would you do if you had to start all over again as far as education is concerned? But you make me want to ask you something instead about, have you ever been pitched by an AI company that hasn't used AI? Uh,
I mean, kind of. I mean, it. So there's a lot of like right now, especially with the proliferation of all these tools. Like people think that AI innovation is using the tool, right? They put something into ChatGPT or a Claude, they get something back, boom, innovation. And that really isn't how it works, right? Um, so yeah, I think that people that are pitching AI companies, which is everybody, because it's hot. Why are you pitching an AI company? Well, a few years ago, I was pitching an NFT company and it didn't work, but it was trending. Now I'm pitching something else that does work and is trending, just because I want to get rich quick. It's kind of the same kind of mindset. Um, yeah, but I think people like unless they actually know, and you can tell. I mean, you can tell if you like work with an AI. I mean, I work with a lot of AI companies doing really cool stuff. You can tell that there's the people that spend a month building out something with AI, and then there's the people that spent the past year with a full team building something out, and are not just like vibe coding with Cursor, but are actually, they know it. They know where the code of the AI ends and the human begins. And they know that, the AI is not foolproof and they know how to correct it. They know how to amend it. They know how to make it work. So yeah, it's a trendy thing. It's the same thing when blockchain was trending. Remember blockchain? It was just here a minute ago. Where'd it go? Everybody was a Web3 founder and a blockchain founder. Then it was NFT, and then and now we're still in the AI, and then who knows what's going to be next? I don't know. AI blockchain. Let's just give it a go.
Good question. I don't know either. It'll be interesting to see what things are like in about 3 years, 4 years. I do want to dive in a little bit more onto the founder stuff because the people who do listen to this podcast ideally are founders, and they want great advice. Like you've already given some of it, but are there certain things that you would say that, like, when somebody comes to you, beyond understanding the fundamentals, is there anything else that's going to prove it to you? Because I mean, if you listen to every podcast from a VC or anyone who's in the industry, they always talk about, I'm looking for the founders, and there's a secret sauce, right? Or there's a secret thing that perhaps they think about when it comes to the founders. But what do you look for if a founder's coming to pitch you?
Okay, well, the typical VC advice is like, I provide value. And the value is like something so generic that it's like, a CTO means Chief Technology Officer. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Like, it's the most generic thing possible. Well, here's the thing. One, the best advice I can give is don't approach investors until you're investable. Okay. And investable does not mean I have an idea, it's going to be the next $1 billion company. Investable means that you have a complete team, you're incorporated, preferably in Delaware, you have a working product, you have traction that is actually meaningful and not just testimonials from your mom. You are growing month over month. You have something there, and you have a product that can give an investor what they want. And specifically, a VC investor wants a 30 to 100x return. Okay. It's a very, very hard, number to hit, right? But that's why it's so hard to raise funding. So I would say that, because I get people all the time and they just aren't ready. They just always want to hop on a call and here's my pitch deck, my data room, my marketing plan, my business plan, a partridge in a pear tree. Like, they give all this stuff and overwhelm you before you even know who they are, right? So it's about like approaching when you're ready, doing the research, right? Making sure that person is actually someone that can help you. Like, founders don't take the time. If you're not going to take the time to understand that I do not invest in early stage companies, and I am not an angel investor. But you still are going to come to me with this giant pitch, which I clearly know you use Chat GPT. It's so blatantly obvious. You didn't even humanize it, and you just are like, "We'd love for you to be an angel investor in this, and we're early stage." But like, it doesn't make you look good. It's amateur. You have one shot. So I think before anything, before you shoot the shot, make sure you're ready. First impressions are everything. Especially if you're going after it cold, because people like to think there's the productivity aspect of it, where it's like we reach out to we auto DM 100 possible matches a day. If we get a 2% return, we're going to win. The problem is, like, you're doing something so niche and specific. There's probably only like 300 investors globally that would do it, but you're hitting anybody with a pulse. I get on my link all the time. I put VC, I put venture comedy, and I still get the connection request with like the giant note of something I don't even understand what it is and why I would request. And they're always terrible. They're always just like, we're going after $1 trillion industry, as if like, oh, you're the first person to say that, right? And then it's like, we're going to save the world. And this is the ground floor to make everyone's lives better. Are you in? It's always something stupid. I don't know what it is. How am I in? I don't know you, So I would say that it's really having something, right? And it's always, every investor is going to say, we want the secret sauce, we want the unfair advantage. Well, yeah, but how are you going to have that unless you have something that's already working? Right. I mean, that's really what it is. Or you have a track record of like, he was the number one salesperson at Facebook under Mark Zuckerberg, and he has all the enterprise, client connections for his enterprise SaaS, so he can get into the rooms with a text message. Okay, that's a core competency that's interesting. Instead of just like, what's your go-to-market? Enterprise clients. Have you ever worked with enterprise clients? Nope. Okay. Do you know the sales cycle for an enterprise client? It's long, but they're going to love us, so it'll be short. Okay. Like, it's just all these random assumptions that make no sense to people that know what they're doing. So you don't want to come off looking foolish or like an amateur. You don't want to raise until you're ready. I mean, some of the best advice I get, if you're serious about it, is to, be on social media, be interacting with people, establish a relationship, and say, hey, I'm not raising, I'm working on this. Maybe in a year or two, if I actually do this, I can contact you. Cool. This person understands it because, yeah, that's great. You want to be in a position of strength. You want to be in a position of, hey, you're doing some real cool stuff. Or when are you doing around? I'm not doing around. I found out how fundraising works. I have to actually give up the company. What? People don't get that. They think that people just give you money. Wait, you want an exit? I thought angel investors were just being nice. That's why they're the term angel. And I was like, no, that's a miracle. There's a difference. It's a whole different operating thing.
Oh my God. So let's say they're investable and they come with a partridge in a pear tree. Are you going to pay? Are you going to write the check?
What I will do is if they're cool and I like them, right, I will help them in however means I can. Right. I'll plug them into OpenVC. Maybe if I know someone that's cutting checks right now that could be helpful for them, I'll make an introduction. But they have to come, they have to come when they're ready and they have to come with the right approach. And it's always better if it's kind of a warm relationship or an introduction, or at least they're known. At least they have a personality. At least they have a big following on social. At least they're actually doing something that's actually like, this is actually pretty cool, right? Like that's kind of my thinking with it. I have been thinking, and not yet. Whenever this drops, don't bug me. Maybe in the next year or so, still thinking about it. I might start doing small angel checks. I might, but only to companies that I can actually be a part of, that I'd like to actually help with. Not just like, here's a check, ping me in 12 years if you have an exit. But here's a check. Let me help you with your content. Let me make some introductions. Let me be an active member of the company in an advisory and investor capacity, that I can help with. So I'm thinking about it. I'm not guaranteeing I'm going to do it, but it's in the back of my mind. And it's not going to be $100,000 check. We're talking small checks just so I can be on the cap table and they could brag about it. Shaun Gold's involved, the funny guy, right? So yeah, just I'm thinking, and it's not going to be like 100 companies a year. It's probably going to be a few companies a year that I think I can really help and that I'd like to be a part of, and that I could really help them move the needle to get to the next round, to get to the next level.
All right. So now we know what founders need to do. Once you're doing it, what's your advice to the founder? Should they be communicating to the VCs? Should they find some other, way of honestly showing their proof of continued, validation of where they're going? I guess it kind of depends on whether or not they're going to try to be an IPO or if they're going to stay private forever. But let's just say they're trying to become a unicorn. Any tips there?
It's like you're trying to become something that's statistically impossible. What do you recommend? Okay, well, my tip is this. Don't try to become a unicorn. It's extremely difficult to do, right? Let's start small. Let's have something that people actually like to use. It solves a really big pain point, and they don't mind paying $20 a month or $30 a month or whatever the case is to use it, right? Simple. Let's do that. That way, if you can have that and you can slowly scale it up, you can slowly build it out. You can talk to all your customers. You can hunt for those logos. Everybody likes to have the logos. You can actually have something that, is more than a proof of concept. You can actually be sliding toward a product market fit in your niche. Right? A lot of founders forget that, they go to Statista and they see the global market for, I don't know, frozen hams, which is perfect for them because they love AI and they love hams, and it's the AI. It's going to be hammy with AI, Hamia. That's a good one. And they think, oh wow, look at this market. Okay, but that's not. The market is extremely niche. So you want to dominate your niche. I think a lot of people forget that. And I feel like it's not about being a unicorn. It's about having something that is repeatable, sustainable, and that can grow, and that you can prove to other investors if you want to invest. Because I posted it the other day on my LinkedIn. Click the link below. We have a link below, right? But there's a variety of different equity paths to take, right? There's seed strapping, blitz scaling, or no, boot scaling, bootstrapping, venture capital route, all that stuff. And everything's different. And I mean, if you can bootstrap it and do it that way, then if you do have that acquisition, you become big. It's kind of like MailChimp, 100% bootstrap, $12 billion exit, two founders, $6 billion each. Okay. Not, venture backed, each founder $100 million each. Not complaining, but it's like every time you raise more and more, dilution happens. You keep giving up more and more, and investors don't like to lose money. So you're going to have all these clawback provisions and liquidity preferences and all the stuff that your lawyer, aka ChatGPT and Associates, can inform you of. You know, but it's you want to make sure that venture is the right path for you, and it's fun to read all these companies that raises $500 billion at a Series E. Yeah, it's fun, it's cool, but you know, at the end of the day, it's very hard to do. You have a lot of milestones you have to hit. It might not be the path you want to do, or the path could just be like, all right, friends and family, 100K round. Uncle Saul's our biggest person on the cap table, and Uncle Saul is happy with a 4x return, not a 100x return. If he gets, you know, 100K back on his 25K, it's going to be a great Thanksgiving. Right? Like, so that might be the best path. But people, especially early stage founders, have never done it before. They always want to get to like, we have to be $1 billion company. We have to be $100 billion company because they see the success of the Ubers and the Facebooks and all that. Those are the outliers. It's very hard to do. It's extremely hard to do. That's why, you know, there's so many startups that fail, like tens of thousands you just never hear of. And they don't fail at the idea stage. They fail at the venture stage. They fail at the Series A stage. They never make it beyond that. Raising investor money is not a guarantee of success. It can help you, but the analogy I always use is that investors aren't going to give you money to start the fire. They're going to give you money when you have a fire, and the gasoline is going to be there to explode it, right? They want to turn that fire into an inferno, like raging inferno. So yeah, that's kind of what I'd recommend. I mean, listen, who doesn't want to be a unicorn? But it's just the reality of it is so much different. And that's I'll just speak on another point is that people don't understand the reality of what they're doing. And I mean that not to be mean, but I just mean that isn't like I don't think how much you realize how much work is involved to be a unicorn company. I don't think you realize how many people you have to have on your team that have experience scaling into other geographies, into other verticals, into growing a company from 1,000 users to 100 million. Like it's very difficult. And it's a lot of work. I mean, if you have a life, kiss it goodbye because it's going to be a 7 day a week gig for you. You know, if it's just a lot of work, and it's much better, at least in my opinion, to you know, work on something that you enjoy, that you have a team that you enjoy working with, that you guys are actually making a product people like, and organically scale it. Some companies take years to scale up. You never hear of them. Some companies are go fast like a cursor, and of course they get all the media attention. A lot of companies explode, a lot more implode. So you kind of have to be aware of, you know, the winding paths that you're going to face as a founder.
Yeah, no, in my book, Unicorn Startups, at the end of each of the 30 different companies profiled, it highlights how long it took them to get to unicorn status. And the shortest was, I think, 8 months, but that one burnt to the ground afterwards. And then
that takes the fun out of it. 8 months to a unicorn, and then they failed.
You know? Exactly. So, I mean, it was a great content for a movie. But the typical ones in more, I guess, established industries would take 8-9 years, right? Like SpaceX took a lot longer than people realize. And space is obviously a huge endeavor, and so many failures that people don't even realize what Musk actually did to get there.
Can you define what a unicorn is? Are we talking the Tom Cruise movie from the 80s, Legend, or are we talking the startup company that achieves a certain amount? I thought we were talking about the movie. It doesn't get enough credit, Legend. Pretty good if you go back and watch it. It's not on Netflix, but I'm sure you can find it if you want to.
See, all I needed to do is spark the humor, you know, quotient here, and here we are.
Well, I was trying to be somewhat serious and helpful, but fine. I'm going to go back to the venture comedy thing. All right, I'm just going to do a bit. Nothing prepared. I'll just do a bit. No problem.
Now, okay, what led you into venture? Let me ask you that question, because you know you're trying to do this passion project, and then all of a sudden, you know, 5 years later, I see you, and you're in venture. So am I. Why are we in venture?
Yeah, I would say for the money. I mean, duh. You know, but people always ask, how did you get into venture? How did you break in? It's like I wrote a check like a simple. I don't want to take the mystery out of it, but everyone's like, "Oh no, how'd you break in? Did you go to events? Did you angel invest in small $1,000 checks? Did you get into cap tables? Did you like maneuver in the same ecosystems of investors? Did you spend your free time finding companies as a scout and then bringing them to startups? I mean, bringing them to venture funds, and did you invest yourself?" And it's like, no, no, that sounds like a lot of work. I don't know who does that, but I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, I already got a hobby. I don't know about that. Yeah, I mean, essentially, in the pandemic, I met some people. I started working with them. They were putting together a fund. I actually plugged them in with some helpful contacts. One of my contacts here in Miami is a big like back office guy. So, he can provide the auditor, administrator, accountant, all that kind of stuff, all the boring stuff for the fund. They said, "Do you want to be a part of it?" I said, "Yeah, sure." That was it. You know, wasn't any easier than that. So that's how I did it. But it was a lot of learning. I mean, I spent a lot of time learning just about what makes a startup fundable, what makes something venture scalable, how people, venture capital works. A lot of people don't get it, right? They just don't. I mean, even with a lot of my like articles on Open VC of like, how does venture capital work? You can just read the article and there's plenty of charts and even fun, gifs and memes. It's all there. So yeah, but it's something that it was just a natural extension of what I already do, just being involved in the ecosystem, connecting people, seeing opportunities, all that kind of stuff. And just, yeah, trying to entrench myself within it more and more.
I was going to ask you earlier if you thought or I was going to ask you what percentage you think of the startup founders you've talked to actually should be where they're at. But instead, I'm going to ask you more about the financing part because, we're kind of diving into this a bit. Like, do you think we should even what percentage, I guess, of startup founders should actually go and try to get venture? And I mean, I guess it kind of depends on the stage in which they're at, but do you think it should be like 1%, 5%? Because you're talking about like it's really, really hard to become a unicorn. And do you think that you should get venture only if you're on the path to trying to be a unicorn, or can you go to venture and just be more of a moderate growth path?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's for 1% of founders, the founders that can achieve, the cliche, if we can capture 1% of the market. Okay, if you capture 1% of the market, that's when you have an IPO. Okay, like that's essentially what happens when you capture 1% of the market. But so many founders are like, nope, 50% easily. There's no one else doing it. There's a reason why, you know. I think it just listens. VCs want explosive growth. They operate on power law, right? They want to give you a small check and turn them into billionaires. They want to be Peter Thiel giving Mark Zuckerberg 500K and then 7 years later having an IPO and they're a billionaire. That's how the fund model operates. That's how VC operates. So of course they want to have that giant, growth. The problem is that giant growth is really hard to attain. It's very hard. So I think that, you have to have a long-term mindset and you have to be able to sustain it and support it on your own. And you have to be able to, if you have to raise only when you absolutely need it. And that's not to get started. That's not just, I'm gonna get a real email and stop using Cool Dude 87 once we raise $1 million, right? Like you really need to have everything in place, especially now because with AI and everything, you can move quickly and validate, and you could see what's working and what's not. You can put in 50K, or you could do a small round and put in this small amount of money that venture won't even consider, to really get to the market and really start building out the brand, building out the product, building out what the customers want, pivoting if you have to. I mean, VCs don't want to fund your experiments. That's it. I mean, there's two paths to venture, right? There's path one, which is you're an exited founder with a giant reputation, so you can just go in there like Elon Musk and say, "I'm going to do this," and everyone's going to fight over how they can get allocation. Then there's the 99% of us that are going to have to bootstrap with our tiny little arms, friends and family, grants, accelerators, and only then, once they have a product and revenue, can they start actually talking to seed stage investors. And nobody wants to hear that because it's unsexy. They want to hear that they came up with an idea when they were in IKEA and boom, I need my money. I was in IKEA. I was shopping for a cap table. It's like what? And then I came with this idea, and then I came home and look, now I got $1 million. Yeah. So it's again, I don't want to be the downer because I make it fun. I put the fun in fun, but I try to bring the sense of reality to the market and to the entire ecosystem of what's expected of you, right? My posts reflect that. My comedy reflects that. They're small, bite-sized, fun little tidbits that make you laugh, but also make you think and hopefully prevent you from making a horrible mistake. I quit my full-time job that was giving me benefits, a pension, and six figures to pursue my dream of AI for, chicken cacciatore. Like, don't do that, please. Like, I can't do both. I'm too busy. And it's like, well, please stick with the full-time job. Especially in this economy, please.
Exactly. We were making fun of Miami. I was about to say Miami earlier. Do you think Miami is not the place to go and look for money or build companies?
It's
And
totally not.
Okay, I guess that was obvious since you already said it. But what are the cities that you would argue could be decent to start or perhaps raise money besides the Bay, which is obvious?
Yeah, I
Or
mean,
is
listen, there's all these cities with different ecosystems, right? Do you have to be there? No, but it does help, right? Because the people you could meet at a real ecosystem, not a Miami ecosystem, which is like crypto bros, OnlyFans models, ex-cons, and people out on parole, right? Like, it's not a good place. But like in Los Angeles, in New York City, in San Francisco, right? Like you're gonna meet real people. You're gonna network with the right people. But you have to temper that with actual building, and you have to make sure you're actually there and you're creating something. It's like, if you have a team, one person should be like 24/7 on the CTO path. The other person should be 24/7 going to every single happy hour and event and talk and just summit that they can get into, that they can shake hands, get numbers, get out cards, and start building a network, right? Being in the right city makes that happen. So I was in New York 2 weeks ago performing and hosting at Rodney's Comedy Club, world famous former Dangerfields, the Fairbridge VC Summit. So that was a room of about 180 people, founders and investors, but the right people. So even if I wasn't like, on stage and hosting and doing the bit, if I was just there in the audience and networking, the networking alone was great because you have the right people in the room, right? So yeah, there is an advantage that comes from it, but at the same time, if you're really dedicated and focused in an era of Zoom and everything, you don't have to be in that right room. You can build it on your own. There's plenty of virtual events. I don't know if they're any good. I speak at a lot of them that you can be in there. And whenever I give a webinar, because I give weekly webinars at Open VC, 3 out of 4 of them are for only our top like premium members, but there's one a month, and that one a month webinar always gets like 200 people, right? So you could be in the chat, and I encourage it. Drop what you're building, what you need, and your LinkedIn, because it's the easiest way to network with someone. I'm building this. I'm a technical founder. I don't know anything about marketing. Oh, well, maybe you can connect with someone that's a former CMO that wants to get into startups. So things of that nature. Where there's a will, there's a way. You just have to be able to do it, and you have to be able to get into it, and you have to realize like the myth of like if I just meet the right person doesn't exist. You have to meet thousands of people, and eventually some of those meetings will pay off and introduce you to the right people and whatnot. Because I hear from founders all the time. I mean, it's like it's always something so stupid. I remember one of them. It was just like, listen, he was just like so dejected about everything, and like, all he wanted from me was like, if you know someone like a Sean Parker that wants to come in and invest and help us be like $1 billion company, that's what I need. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure. I just met you, but let me see who's going to be my chief evangelist that has billions of dollars that is even going to understand or want to meet you and support you. So yeah, it's that's my thoughts on it. But yeah, it's you have to be active, everywhere, to be honest.
Well, with the answer of accessibility that you just mentioned, then that means internationally, people should be able to frankly be, recreating the success we have in the United States. Would you agree, disagree? And to add on that, there's almost 1.5 billion Indians. There's close to that in terms of Chinese. Do you think they should be playing in their own arena, or do you think they should take part in here? So yeah, that's a two-pronged question for you there.
I mean, listen, the United States, despite all of its flaws, is still very like startup friendly. You still have the American dream. You still have the ability that if you can come here and hustle and do it, you can make it. And we have an environment that supports that. I'm not too familiar with other environments, but I know, like, for instance, London has a big scene. Berlin has a big scene, right? You want to go where the fish are, fish where the fish are, and you want to do it in such a way that if you're operating in that geography, like if you're going to have a company in the United States and your target market is U.S. Consumers, then you want to be in the U.S. It's that simple. Um, it's essentially, there are startup communities globally. I know there are, but you have to find the ones that make sense for you. You have to find the ones that are gonna move the needle forward for you. So I can't really answer that for individual founders. I just know that if you're here in Miami, it's the worst place to do anything, right? Like it's the worst. There's too many distractions, all of that stuff. Like it's not worth it to come here because you're going to be distracted. You're going to meet somebody. You're going to go on a yacht, and you're going to miss a meeting that's going to be pivotal to your future.
Any hot industries that you might say beyond AI, because obviously AI is the de facto hot industry, but any industries that you like personally, any underserved opportunities in your mind? Like if you could go and create a company in this vertical.
I'm not really like, if I have an idea, I'm going to test it out myself. If I don't have the idea, I don't want to be one of those guys that goes on social. It's like, this Apple phone sucks because of this. Someone should build something different. They'll be a billionaire, right? They're just like a frustrating rant. Yeah, I mean, listen, I always have different ideas, but they're probably all terrible. So, I mean, they're not gems. They're probably horrible, and I wouldn't say people should do this because they're probably really terrible, to be honest. I mean, there's plenty of underserved markets that are using legacy systems that if you could build something that could replace the legacy system and make everybody's life easier, then yeah, there's an opportunity. What that is, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I work with a startup doing stuff for, hospitals, right? Because hospitals run on legacy systems. So they're using data-driven AI approaches for patient care and patient logistics. Great. That's not my vertical because those are notoriously hard clients to deal with and hard to break into. But I'm sure there's a giant opportunity there. There's a lot of, boring things that people just need to realize this sucks and this is boring. I could do something better. And then they actually need to do something better and see if they can get people to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll throw you a few industries just for the hell of it. Let's talk about SaaS. Is that still sexy?
SaaS is always going to be sexy. Who wants to pay once for something when they can pay every month, right? Yeah, that's never going away.
3D printing. We had one of the premier 3D printing CEOs on the show 2 or 3 episodes ago. We used to be office mates in Seattle, and he disappeared after 2 weeks because he just got sold to Google. And he had like a 3 or 5 person team. I can't remember. It was really tiny. And then I started reading about it, and I was just, wow, like he was able to, and he told the whole story about how that actually happened. But then he went on to explore different avenues, and then he ended up landing in 3D printing. So I was happy for him. I just asked because it's not as in the forefront these days like AI basically is.
I mean,
so
I think, well, definitely with the amount of revenue he has, but yeah, it's definitely practical. I mean, there's a lot of, like, again, boring practical stuff that are making things happen, right? That are serving a need and filling a need. And listen, headlines are fun, but you know what's better? Like silent bank accounts, right? Like, again, it's very easy to get clout these days. You don't need to have it in a TechCrunch article, right? You could literally
speaking of, you're on like this top list of VCs or something like that on LinkedIn, and you kind of made fun of that, right?
I didn't make fun of it. I just said that it was the simulation was broken or somebody was drunk, but or both. Yeah, no, I appreciate being on that list. It was cool. Somebody must have had a scandal or something. They had to replace it at the last minute if they were picking me. Oh, that guy. Oh, he's got some bad. We get his picture out. Get Shaun in there. He's funny. He's good. Yeah, I just think, listen, it's cool. And again, it's fun. That's always great. It was nice to wake up to and say, that's a nice surprise. Yeah, I don't have any issues with it. But at the same time, I think chasing headlines is not relevant. I think chasing money is relevant. I think really like chasing. I mean, I see startups and they're on the Nasdaq or the billboard in Times Square, and they have it. Okay, great. But like, is someone going to look at the billboard and be like, "I'm going to download that right now," right? Like, I was in the subway in New York, and they had a thing for clay, and it was just such a bad branding thing because they had pieces of clay, and it was like your go-to-market strategy, and there was like pieces of clay. I thought it was for Play-Doh. I thought we could build like a Star Wars set or something with that. Like, it doesn't, like who on the subway is going to be like, oh man, I really hate Apollo. I'm going to go, oh great, clay, and then just look up to it. Especially if it's right next to the advertisement where it's like, don't ride on the trains, it could kill you. Like, I don't get it. So yeah, it's just my personal opinion, I think, listen, headlines are cool, but doing the work that can get you that, that earned media, getting that work that can support the headlines and that could make it real is much more important.
All right, one last question about startups, and we'll dive into the last questions that we do on the show.
Sure.
Any specific markets in terms of like countries that you feel like if you had $5 million or $10 million to go and invest in these countries, any you would choose? Like I saw Israel was doing well.
Well, I mean,
There are
Israel's like has the biggest, I think, tech startup economy outside of like California, right? I work with a lot of Israeli companies. So yeah, I mean, listen, there's plenty of opportunities. You just have to look where no one's looking, right? Sub-Saharan Africa has a ton of opportunities. Latin America has a ton of opportunities. Southeast Asia has a ton of opportunities. You just have to find the right ones, right? You have to find the companies that, I see a lot of stuff in Sub-Saharan Africa that are serving really large niches, right? Because people are getting smartphones, the adoption is spreading, they're being technologically savvy, but they were operating in legacy countries and legacy systems, right? So yeah, there's one of my partners is really in deep in that and knows like what to look for and whatnot in like a lot of different companies, but and especially in these emerging markets. But emerging markets, I think, is where the future is going to be because your checks go farther, the opportunity is there. A lot of people aren't even looking at it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. All right, so we're going to get to more of a serious part of the show, if that's okay. Mainly because, unfortunately, we have to take life a little seriously, and even the
Oh,
startup
that takes the
process.
fun out of it. Okay.
I
Lay
know,
it
I
on me.
know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know I'm deflating this, and everybody will probably turn off the podcast now. But we'll see if your answer is so exciting and so amazing that they'll stay tuned. So I dedicate this next question beyond the three Qs to my cousin because unfortunately she kind of decided to end things in her mid-20s, and it was because it's something that all of us experience, no matter if you're a startup founder, a VC, or just in college or whatever. But we have hard times, we have shitty times, let's just say. And I imagine life has not been all roses and sunshine for you as well. What have you done to kind of get through those hard times? Do you have any secrets that you could share, or how did you deal with all that?
Yeah, I mean, one, having a goal, like a really good goal and a purpose helps you navigate it. Number one. Two, you have to keep going. It's not going to last forever. During the pandemic, when we met, a lot of people were depressed. That pandemic was like 18 months. Just think about it. All right. It's like 2 hockey seasons. It's not that long. Um, you know, I mean, we acted like it was the end of the world, but like 2022, everyone had a vaccine. you know, I was back out throwing parties. I mean, you have to keep like focused. You have to have a goal and you have to keep going because there's not a single person who's ever accomplished anything that hasn't faced the hardship, that hasn't faced the hard times, that haven't faced setbacks, that haven't had to surmount obstacles. One of the key points that I always use is just looking to one history, to other people that have dealt with far worse than you ever have to deal with, and mythology. Those two kind of like the key pillars that can help you go through hell and keep going, so to speak.
Thank you. All right. Well, the next questions are kind of serious, and the last one will be a little less. Would you say you have a hero? And if you do, who would it be? Or do you have heroes? Can't say. You know.
Of course, multiple. You gotta have heroes. I mean,
All
you
right.
have
Yes.
to. This age is not one for the heroic. Okay, that's a problem. That's why everyone has like, oh, is demoralized. There's no role models because we're in an age of influencers and gurus and cashless parking meters. Like it doesn't really inspire the heroic within all of us. But plenty. I mean, from everything from characters in movies to mythological characters to historical figures, right? Plenty. I mean, I'll give two quick examples from the two greatest adventures in human history, according to me. Number one, Xenophon and the March of the 10,000. Okay, he was the inspiration for the Walter Hill flick, The Warriors. Love that movie. But yeah, number one, ancient history. Two more recent history, just over 100 years ago, Ernest Shackleton, um, Arctic explorer. Again, Xenophon had to march with 10,000 soldiers from the Middle East and get home to Greece. Surviving enemy forces, hostile populace, bad weather, surely no Wi-Fi, surely couldn't update anyone, and just the elements. Shackleton ship was moored in the ice and then sank, and he was marooned on an island, and he had to find a help at the bottom of the earth and to rescue his entire crew, which he did. So yes, it's those two are kind of like the emphasis of the heroic, of the human spirit, of what can be done.
I love it. I love it. No one's ever answered that, so those are very unique.
They
The
haven't.
next, no,
Not
not.
even a
Yeah.
Chewbacca.
Can
I
you
like
can you believe
Chewbacca.
that? Well, you would be the first to choose Chewbacca as well. So none of those three have actually been mentioned. Next one, role models. Right now, we're kind of at a stage in history where, let's just say, I get a lot of times this answer that there aren't role models just because of how shitty it is, to not use the word again. But any role models you think we should use for our future generations?
Yeah, no, if they have a social media account, they're not a role model. Okay, like if they have a TikTok and they go viral, dude, that's not your role model. Okay, same for any other platform. Yeah, I mean, you mean contemporary role models, or are we talking anyone?
Anybody in general, because I feel like leadership has been a little lacking in the world. Obviously, the president of the United States is probably one of the most well-known leadership positions. And obviously, we know that the individual that's in the current capacity, not to get political, but has had questionable, especially right now in history, I guess, reputation issues or does questionable things. So I don't ask it just for politics. I ask it across the board, like even business. None of these unicorn founders are probably out there doing as much nonprofit work, even though you have the Mark Zuckerberg and Patricia Chan or whatever her last name is foundation, or you used to have Gates and Gates's foundation, and all of them create foundations, but then all of a sudden we see this issue with Bill Gates, or not me personally, but people are questioning. But there's very few people, it seems like, lead in ways or provide models again that could potentially help us be better people. I don't know. That's why I asked that question.
Hold on, let me prepare for the question. Hold on, Siri, who's the president of the United States right now? I'll get an answer in 1 sec. No, listen, it's very tough right now because we're in kind of like a nerf world, and we don't have leaders, we have bosses, right? We don't. We have people that want to get sound bites. We don't have people that actually want to take command and take control and all of it. So it's very hard to have someone up to, especially if they have an amount of fame or they're in the public sphere. The people that I think people should look up to are the people that they know, but they don't even realize that they're, the stuff that they're doing, right? That they're working a job they hate and then driving for Uber because that's all they can do until they can get, enough money to start something on their own, right? That's being a role model, right? It's going into the same environment that they hate day after day to do something that is dangerous, but they do it anyway. Like that's a role model. They're not going to have a lot of following, but that's the people that keep society running, right? Role models, right? Nobody wants to go do that, right? Nobody wants to keep the streets clean, but someone has to do it, right? So I think in that way, I mean, it's hard because I mean everyone's so fake. I say this as someone that's hung out with celebrities and all these people and all this. Like in reality, everyone's so fake, and people only believe what they see on social media, which is all very manicured and very well presented, and it's very very holographic because nothing is just real. So you really have to stop looking at all these people up here and really start looking at the people that are probably within your network that you want to aspire to be like, because they don't complain, they just do it, they keep going, they don't stop, they don't quit, they do what they have to do day in and day out.
I like that. I like that a lot. Thank you. All right, last question's easy. So, what's your favorite food? Where do you go to get it? Is that why you moved to Miami?
Oh, no. If I move to Miami for the food, we have a problem. Yeah, random. I mean, I don't have a favorite food. I'll just say sushi, and I go to a sushi bar. Done. Easy question. Oh, that was a real stumper. You have a follow up or what?
Well, yeah. Well, which sushi bar in Miami should we go to that you go to all the time?
Oh man, that's a tough one because my go-to spot I stopped going to a few years ago, and then the health department gave it a bunch of violations. So I'm not going to recommend it. Good thing I stopped going. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, here to be honest, I don't really eat sushi as much as I should. When I go out of town to better places, places like New York that have the letter on the window that say it's an A by the health department. Yeah, 100%. But here it's like it's been a while. But yeah.
Got it. Well, let's say after people get to listen to this podcast, they go, "Wow, that was the most entertaining podcast I've ever heard or seen in my entire life." How can they reach out to you? LinkedIn? Are you good at responding to your millions of pounds?
I don't think they'll say that, but sure, if you do and you enjoyed it, the best thing to do is go to LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn. If you really liked it, send me a connection request with a letter. I heard you on the podcast. You were funny. Okay. Not a letter. Heard you on the podcast. And I agree with you, which is why I'm building AI for hash browns. Here's my pitch deck, marketing plan, business plan, partridge in a pear tree. Don't do that. Yeah, LinkedIn's the best. I am building on an X account, but LinkedIn is my go-to. Every day I post Monday to Friday. I keep it funky, keep it light, keep it loose, keep it fresh, keep it entertaining. Put in the fun and fun. Yeah, that's the best place to follow me.
Oh, I did not know you're on X. I'm on X probably too much these days.
I'm not X, not enough. But please, you can follow. I have it as @ButShaun, just like how I do it in the LinkedIn. ButShaun, I'll shoot you the link, and then you can follow. Again, we're still building it out. It's relatively early, but I got some tastemakers. I got some change makers. Okay, we're gonna build that thing out to like a bunch of followers. I'm gonna get more involved when I'm on there. Just right now, my focus is a little split.
All right. Well, I'll get you on my Friday night spaces, and we'll give you some mic time and introduce you to my friend Dane, who has like this huge religious following, because obviously every listener to you or fan of yours is probably religious.
It's perfect place for angel investors. We're going to lead the sermon at the tabernacle of term sheets.
Well, Shaun, it was amazing to catch up with you today. I want to use other positive words that I can't even think of right now. I really thank you for your time. I hope we'll get to spend more time, not 5 years in between.
Yeah, let's schedule something for 2030 if you're available.
Yeah, thank you for giving these answers. I'm serious. You gave a lot of great advice to startups. So I hope they do get to listen here today.
All right. Well, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
If your calendar isn't already set, you're missing out on startup wins. Industry leaders, top advisors, and incredible tips await. Come back for future great episodes and entertaining guests, and come back for more insider strategies and incredible stories from the brightest VCs, founders, and operator experts. We're bringing you the best in the business twice a month. Hit that bell and stay winning with Startup Wins. See you soon.